In 1954, a strange man arrived at an airport in Tokyo. At first glance, he looked completely normal, just like any other traveler stepping off an international flight. He was neatly dressed in a dark suit, wearing a classic fedora, and carrying a leather briefcase. His appearance was calm and composed, nothing about him seemed unusual, but within minutes, everything about this man would become one of the strangest mysteries ever recorded. As he approached the immigration checkpoint, an officer politely asked for his passport. The man handed it over without hesitation. The officer opened it and began checking the details, just as he had done thousands of times before, but something immediately caught his attention. The passport stated that the man was from a country called Taured. The officer frowned. He had never heard of such a place before. At first, he assumed it might be a small or newly established country, but the more he looked, the stranger it became. The passport looked completely authentic. It had official stamps, proper formatting, and even entry records from previous trips. Everything about it appeared real, except for one thing. Taured did not exist. The officer called over his colleague to double-check. They flipped through the pages again and again, but the result was the same. None of them had ever heard of Taured. Trying to stay calm, the officers asked the man a simple question. "Where is this country located?" Without any hesitation, the man confidently pointed to a map hanging nearby. He placed his finger between France and Spain. The officers looked at each other in confusion. "There is no country called Taured there," one of them said. "That is Andorra." The man's expression immediately changed. He looked confused, almost offended. He insisted they were wrong. He said Taured had existed for over 1,000 years. He even claimed it was a well-established country with a long history. Now the situation was becoming serious. The officers decided to investigate further. They asked him to provide additional proof of his identity. The man calmly opened his briefcase and began showing documents. What they found only made things more disturbing. He had a driver's license issued in Taured. He had business papers from a company based there. He even had hotel reservations in Tokyo under his name. All of the documents looked perfectly legitimate. There were no signs of forgery, no inconsistencies, nothing that suggested it was fake. Even more shocking, his passport contained multiple entry and exit stamps from different countries. Some of these stamps were from places that required strict verification, meaning his passport had been accepted before. This was no ordinary mistake. The officers began to feel uneasy. Was this man lying? Or was something far more impossible happening? They escorted him into a separate interrogation room. The lighting was dim, and the atmosphere grew tense. The man remained calm at first, but as the questioning continued, he became increasingly frustrated. He could not understand why no one recognized his country. To him, Taured was completely normal. He answered every question clearly. He gave consistent details. He showed no signs of panic or deception. Hours passed, but the officers were no closer to the truth. Finally, with no clear explanation, and unsure of what to do next, the authorities made a decision. They would keep the man overnight while they continued their investigation. He was taken to a nearby hotel and placed under strict supervision. 2 officers were stationed outside his room at all times. They were given clear instructions not to let him leave under any circumstances. The room itself was several floors above the ground, the windows were secured, and there was no balcony. No hidden exits. No possible way to escape without being seen. Everything was under control. Or so they thought. The next morning, the officers returned to the room to continue questioning. But when they opened the door, the man was gone. At first, they thought he might be hiding somewhere inside. They searched the entire room, the bathroom, the closet, every corner. Nothing. There were no signs of forced entry. No broken windows. No clues. It was as if he had simply vanished. The guards outside swore they had not seen anyone leave. The door had remained closed the entire time. No one had entered. No one had exited. It was impossible. The authorities immediately launched a full investigation. They checked surveillance, they reviewed documents, they tried to trace his identity. But what they discovered was even more unsettling. There were no records of this man. No background. No history. No trace. And most importantly, there was no country called Taured anywhere in the world. It was as if both the man and his origin had never existed at all. Over the years, many theories have emerged. Some believe the man was a traveler from a parallel universe, a world almost identical to ours, but with small differences. In his reality, Taured was real, and somehow, he had crossed into ours. Others think the story is nothing more than an elaborate legend, a tale that grew over time without any real evidence. But one thing remains certain. No one has ever been able to explain what truly happened that day. And the mystery still lingers. If the man was telling the truth, then where did he really come from?